this is Jay Deere. I've got some comments about the M882 course, Managing the Software Enterprise, particularly around Part 2, which is called Processes, how to get your software and keep it. I've got some general points about the content of Part 2, and then a couple of comments about the TMA itself, which comes up at the end. So Part 2 is split into 4 sections. First is the sources of software. Where can you get software from? What mechanisms are there to get it? Second section is about software activities. What do you need to do to get software that's right for your organisation, your situation? Third section is software processes. How do you do it? Some of the structures, some of the mechanisms. And the fourth section about maintaining and evolving software. That follows the structure in the course materials for M882. This is really meant as just an overview, just a quick flyby to take a look at some key areas. If you're looking at this early in the course of studying Part 2, I'd suggest you listen to it now, but come back to it before you try and write the TMA. So when you're thinking about the TMA, maybe come back to this, take a second look just to give you some highlights of things you may have studied several weeks or even months before. So through this we're going to take the analogy of a house. So the first topic was getting software. So what are your options for getting a house? A number of options here. First is you could build it yourself. You buy the land, you buy the bricks, you buy the timber, you buy the scaffolding, you put it all up, you may learn a lot of skills, maybe you hire some specialist people to do the carpentry, do the plumbing, do the electrics, but you're doing it, you're managing it, you're in control. Advantages here, well, you're going to get what you designed, hopefully, if your skills are right and you can build according to your design. Disadvantages, obviously needs a reasonably large team of people or some good management skills. May need skills you don't have in your organisation already. It may take more time, reasonably high capital outlay, you've got to pay for all these things up front, but you do get what you designed. So another option, of course, is to pay someone else to build a house for you. You may still get the designs done according to your specific needs, but then you pay a contractor to manage the build, manage all the other people, manage the roofers, manage the electricians, and so on. Advantages there, well, you can probably choose someone who's done it before, therefore got some skills in that area, who's built your sort of house with your sort of construction. Disadvantages, again, capital cost. Contract negotiations, you have to be able to negotiate a contract with these people. How much do you pay them, when, what's the stage payments, and so on. So some other options of getting a house, those two fairly common. Another option is simply to improve the one you've got, maybe put a new roof on, new windows. Benefits there is relatively quick, relatively cheap, you don't have to go through the time and cost of building a complete new house. Disadvantages, well, you still basically have got the same house. That's fine if the house is doing what you need, but if you need an extra 4 or 10 rooms, then it's not going to change that way. What else can you do then? Well, you could buy one that was already being built. Advantages there, fairly quick compared to building it yourself or getting someone else to build it for you. Still quite a high capital cost, you've got to pay the money out to Barrett's or whoever it is who built the house. There's normally quite a selection on the market, you can do some choice about where you want it, how many rooms, how many bedrooms, is it a house or a flat, and so on. So you get some choice about what's there and available. Some guarantees probably come with it, probably likely to be quite a substantial sort of property. It's probably going to be having built by someone who knows what they're doing rather than being their first time ever building a house. So some advantages, some disadvantages. Another option, of course, is to rent a house. Maybe you don't need to buy one at all, just rent it. Advantages there is normally quite quick. You can move in next week, let's say, rather than having to wait 6 to 9 months for a house to be built or improvements to be done. You don't need a lot of capital. You might have to put down a deposit, but you don't have to have hundreds of thousands of pounds to pay for a house, or pay for equipment, or pay for a team to build it. You can just move in, basically. Disadvantages, well, you get what's available. There's one of these available, there's one of those available. Might not be quite right for you, but it's there. Disadvantages, again, you keep paying for it, you don't have anything you own at the end. And the final option for getting a house, well, maybe you could squat in one that already exists. It's there, it's open, it's available. Maybe even the owners say, well, yeah, you can stay here if you like, I don't mind. And that's an option too. So, what's the reason for doing that? Just to give a slightly different view of software, because all of those options are software options as well. Options you have for acquiring software. So let's take a look at some of those and do the software analogy. So you can reuse what you have, stay in the same house, put a new roof on it. And this would be keeping maybe your legacy applications doing some tidying up, doing some refactoring, maybe putting a wrapper around it so you can have web services talking to an old COBOL application. And we've got the same sort of advantages as for a house, that it's relatively low cost, you don't have to rebuild everything. If the house, if the software is doing what you want it to, basically, then it will continue doing that. You don't have to spend a lot of money re-engineering something that's basically right. But if you want something very different, it's not going to be very different if it's just a wrapper. The analogy of buying one that already exists is buying commercial software, so commercial off-the-shelf software, COTS. So an Oracle application suite or SAP or any one of those, many applications for different areas. Advantages here, well, it's available, you can make some choices between them. Is Oracle better for your business, or SAP, or whatever the other options might be? It's probably going to have a lot of functionality already there, they know what they're doing, they've been building it for a while, but it might not exactly match what you need. So it's the equivalent of buying a house that's being built by Barrett's Home Builders or whoever. The house is there, it'll be structurally sound, is it exactly right for you? Maybe. So to get one exactly right from you, the option is to build it yourself to your own specifications. This is the equivalent of hiring a software team, development team, to actually do the design, do the implementation, test, operation of your software that you've built specifically for your needs. Advantages there, hopefully it will match your needs, because if you've done that work up front. Disadvantages, cost, time, have you got the right skills, what do you do when you finish building that software? Do you keep the people employed, or do you get rid of them? Some problems. So one of the other options is to pay someone else to build it to your design, the outsourcing option. So you might use a consulting company or contracting company to build something, maybe even do the design as well. Advantages there, someone else is managing it who knows what they're doing, hopefully. If you can manage contracts well, you can control the costs, also good. Disadvantages, well, do you know what you're getting? There's still quite a lot of cost involved, it's still custom built, and it still takes quite a bit of time. The other alternative here is to rent the software, otherwise known as software as a service. And the great example here is Salesforce.com. If you've got a sales team and you want to get them started up with recording their sales visits and activities and potential customers, then you can start people tomorrow. So advantages are very quick to start, very low capital cost. There is a monthly cost per user typically, or a small fee. So it scales up to a large number of users very quickly. Worth mentioning perhaps that for software we don't have one of the options that we do have for houses, which is once we've had something built to our specifications, we typically can't sell it on and recoup some of that cost. The intellectual property rights and the contract rights typically don't allow that to happen. You get a license for use, not for resale. So the question then is, out of all these different sources, which is the best one? And there's no single right answer, but as one of my colleagues has pointed out, there's often lots of wrong answers. So you need to match the particular advantages and disadvantages of a type of software acquisition to a particular situation. Case studies in the course previously have included things like the control software for a nuclear power station, or a small 10-person public sector organisation looking at tracking free school dinners effectively. So different requirements for different organisations depending upon their level of expertise, the likely effort it's going to take to do something by a particular way, their particular requirements, the lifetime of use of the particular application you're looking at. Another point to make here is it's often useful to combine sources. For example, very common to use components of off-the-shelf, commercial off-the-shelf software with some modifications. So you'll buy Oracle or SAP or whatever it might be and have modifications done to make it better meet your particular requirements. Another good example is the use of open source software. Very few people would build a web server from scratch. Apache dominates the market, it's open source, it's available, you can incorporate into commercial products as well. Would you build a browser, for example, if you needed one for your application? Most people, no, you wouldn't. But Google did, so some people do. But Google built Chrome recently, released it as a new type of browser. And just to mention a very common open source software stack called LAMP, which stands for Linux as the operating system, Apache as the web server, MySQL as the database, and Perl or PHP as the programming language. And there's Windows equivalents like WAMP or with Solaris, SAMP, whatever. Typically using those as a basis and then doing customization around them.